Hey, what's going on? This is Sports Truth. I'm your host, Jordan Harris. So, a lot of you know that I was actually out of town on vacation. My wife and I, we went to the Bahamas, we went to Miami for a little while just to get away because we own a few businesses. We've been, I wouldn't say stressed, but our minds are always going, thinking about business and whatnot. So, we want to take some time away, about a week or so, just to relax and just get a fresh start before Christmas and everything. So while we were gone, a whole lot of things happened as far as Miami happenings go, Miami football happenings go. Um, let's go back to a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, when the transfer portal was just about to open, and then actually just after it opened. Everybody was super excited as far as Miami Hurricanes football fans go. Super excited, super optimistic. There were quarterbacks all over the place. Our quarterback had just gotten into the transfer portal, Tyler Van Dyke. Some people were happy to see him go, whatever it may be. But a whole lot of people were really excited because there were quarterbacks all over the place who were jumping into the transfer portal. And we were like, man, like we could land any of these and be in a much better position. Like we had Will Howard that we were all, not all, a lot of us were hoping to be able to land Will Howard. Looks like he's probably going to go to USC. I had the mindset that bringing in Dante Moore would be pretty cool from UCLA, even though he was young and he was saying he didn't really have to start to begin with on the new team that he joined. I thought that was cool, but he's made a decision to go somewhere else. Rodgers decided to go somewhere else. So all of these quarterbacks who jumped into the transfer portal that had us all excited, like, man, there's 15 really good quarterbacks out there, and we could get one of those. Well, now it seems like almost all of those have decided which school they're gonna play for next year. And I'm not one to panic. That's just not who I am. I'm super optimistic. The people that work with me, the people that work for me, um, they've heard me. Almost all of them have heard me say at in one point or another. I've always said, "Don't panic, plan it." Right? Don't panic and just throw your hands up and just not get anything done, but actually plan what you're gonna do. Even though that's my motto, that's what I say all the time. I think Miami Hurricanes fans are almost in panic mode at this point, including myself. It's almost time to panic. And the reason why I say this is because I think the majority of us believe that it would be better for the quarterbacks on our current staff right now, our current roster, whether Ja'Carry Brown decides to stay or if he goes, um, and Emory Williams, it would be better for those players to have at least one more year on the sideline watching and developing. So we would like to bring in somebody who's got some experience, somebody who's played quite a few games, quite a few meaningful games would be even better. But right now, like I said, all of those quarterbacks that we were hoping, those junior quarterbacks that's going to transfer out of their schools into another school, we're like, yeah, that'd be cool to get him. They are all just about spoken for at this point. They've gone to Washington, considered USC, whatever it may be. So now I'm starting to think, okay, it might almost be panic mode because we seem to have all of our eggs in one basket with Cam Ward. I would love to get Cam Ward, but now it's starting to look like waiting, like it might come back and it might come back and bite us in the butt. It just might. So recently, we've had one person who put their name into the transfer portal, and it made me like really do a deep dive into their stats, watching some highlights, watching some lowlights, just looking at all the stats, all the film that I can find on them. And I'm like, is this like the more that I've watched this guy, the more I'm thinking, is he actually a better option than Cam Ward? And if you wonder who I'm talking about KJ Jefferson. He's transferring from Arkansas. So I did like a tail of the tape on this thing. I just made quick these quick graphics, just do a side by side comparison of these two quarterbacks through physical attributes, also just through stats they've put out. I also want to talk about KJ Jefferson's not this past year, not 2023, but I also want to look at 2022 because he seemed to have performed quite a bit well in 22 And it looks like he had a pretty, I wouldn't say a significant dip in 23, but a pretty obvious dip. Like if you just look at the numbers, it's like, oh yes, quite a bit different there. So I want to make sure that I highlight KJ Jefferson's 2022 as well. So let's just go through this tell the tape, and then I would love to get y'all's comments on if you think KJ Jefferson would be a better, like if he would be even better than Cam Ward, if he would be about the same, if you think he'd be worse than Cam Ward, or let me know if you think he would be better, equal to, or worse than Tyler Van Dyke. I think that would be a really good conversation for us to all have in the comment section. Before we get into this, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. We've got some lofty goals that we're working to meet. So please do like the video. It helps for sure. Also, subscribe to the channel. It costs you absolutely nothing. If it did cost you something, I would not ask you for it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Cam Ward, he's 6'2". KJ Jefferson is 6'3", so he's got about an inch. Watching both of those players on the field, I don't know why, but it just looks like KJ Jefferson is much bigger than Cam Ward. Jefferson is about 15 pounds more. He weighs about 15 pounds more. As you see, Ward is 233, and KJ Jefferson is 247. So about 15 pounds difference. Washington State is where Cam Ward is leaving, and KJ Jefferson is leaving Arkansas. And then the conferences, you have the Pac-12 with Cam Ward, and then you have the SEC, KJ Jefferson. So Pac-12 had a really good season this past year. Like, for whatever reason, they decided to have the best talent, the best quarterback talent, the best defenses, the best everything that they've ever put on the field. They decided to wait to do that for their last year of existence, which is nuts to me. But KJ Jefferson did put up some really good numbers against some really impressive SEC schools. I think that's to be noted. Also, let's talk about high school ratings. So coming out of high school, Cam Ward was not rated, and then KJ Jefferson was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. The transfer ratings flipped a little bit, not flipped, but switched a little bit. So Cam Ward is a 4-star transfer now, and then we have KJ Jefferson as a 3-star transfer rating. And then the QB type. So you'll notice there's a difference here. They both say dual threat, but you'll notice one has question mark and one has an exclamation point. If you're wondering what the heck does that mean, the reason why I say this is because Cam Ward is super athletic, change of pace, change of direction. It's all I wouldn't say through the roof, but it's all really impressive. But he's not one to run north and south. He doesn't want to run north and south very often. He wants to run east and west. So he's running sideways and looking down the field to make big throws down there. He's usually using his athletic ability to keep the play alive, to look down the field, make bigger plays than what he's being presented in front of him. That's why I'm saying dual threat. Like, yes, he is a dual threat, but he's not one that's going to kill you with his legs on the ground running straight down the middle of the field for 30 or 40 yards like you might see some other dual threat quarterbacks doing. So, yes, he's athletic, but he's not looking to kill you with running down the field. KJ Jefferson, on the other hand, he can kill you running straight down the field. I don't think he has as much stop and start speed as Cam Ward does. Like, I think that his 40-yard dash will probably be a little slower than Cam Ward. But the reason why I have an exclamation point at the end of his dual threat is because KJ Jefferson will run you over. Like, he'll run around you, but he's also not afraid to run through you. You know what I'm saying? So he's kind of got that, let's not go crazy and say Michael Vick, but he can run around you. But then he's also got some of that Tim Tebow where he'll lower his head and run right through you too. So, like, if you see a, I don't know, second and goal from the 4-yard line or the 5-yard line, you might see them, like you would hardly ever see a Cam Ward do a shotgun quarterback draw from the 4-yard line on a third and goal. But you might see them do that with KJ Jefferson if he decides to play at Miami. You might see them do second and goal from the 4-yard line, and they just do 5 wide and then quarterback draw, and he runs straight up the middle. You could see that with him because he's not scared to run through somebody. All right, so Cam Ward just finished his junior year, and then KJ Jefferson, he would actually be a grad transfer for us. I think this is his 6th year actually in college because I think he got an extra year due to COVID. So they both have plenty of experience, and even though Cam Ward is coming in as a junior, it would be crazy to think that he's actually going to use those next 2 years. So if you're thinking that you would rather have Cam Ward because you can get 2 years out of him, that's just not realistic. Both of these players would be a one and done type of player. They're both one and done. Both of them are. All right, so let's talk about some of the most important stuff. So the passing yards, pass completions, all that kind of stuff. So Cam Ward, he was, and the most important part on this completions and attempts is going to be the completion percentage. I know it's a lot of numbers that's going to be thrown out here, but Cam Ward is 323 completions with 485 passes, so that's 66%. So he threw the ball quite a bit at Washington State. And then you've got KJ Jefferson, who didn't throw it nearly as much. He completed 190 passes, and he threw the ball just under 300 times. So he threw the ball just under 300 times, and you got Cam Ward, who threw it 485 times. That's a lot of attempts. They both were right around 65% is what you want to see. So not a lot of difference there. The yards, pretty big difference there. There's 3,700 yards for Cam Ward, and then you've got 2,100 passing yards for KJ Jefferson. I also put in parentheses the 2022 year because, like I said, there's a pretty big difference there. So 2023 had 2,100 yards, and then KJ Jefferson had 2,361 yards in 2022. Okay, let's talk about the touchdowns. So 25 touchdowns for Cam Ward this past season, and we had 19 touchdowns for KJ Jefferson this past season, and he had 22 touchdowns the year before. And then let's look at the interceptions as well. So the interceptions, Cam Ward had 7 interceptions. That means that he went 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, a little better than a 3-to-1 ratio, which you got to love that. And then you look at KJ Jefferson, touchdowns was 19, and he had 8 interceptions. So that's a little better than 2-to-1 ratio. You don't love that. You try to get more like between a 3-to-1 ratio, 3.5-to-1 ratio is even better, obviously. But the year before that, which is this is part of the main reason why I wanted to put his 2022 numbers on there, is because in 2022 he had 22 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. That's a crazy ratio. That's 5.5-to-1 if I'm doing my numbers right in my head. So, yeah, 5.5-to-1. You gotta be able to live with that. Those are some crazy numbers, especially if he had even more attempts and he was throwing the ball all over the yard like Washington State was giving Cam Ward the opportunity to do. Makes you wonder what his numbers would look like. But yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy, pretty mind-blowing. Another part that I wanted to put in this video is something that a lot of people overlook. And when it comes to college football, well, even pro football nowadays, being able to run the ball is important. Like, I think gone are the days where we have a bunch of Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's out there. Now it seems like you're almost required to be able to be mobile in the court, be mobile as a quarterback, whether it's being mobile in the pocket or taking off and running down the field. So I want to talk about their abilities to run the ball. So as far as carries go, Cam Ward had 120, KJ Jefferson had 161. The year before that, Jefferson had 144, so a few less the year before. Okay, now let's talk about the yards. Cam Ward had 144 yards, and I know like sacks and all that stuff, it throws all these numbers off. But Cam Ward had 144 yards, and then KJ Jefferson had 447 yards. And the year before that, he had slightly more at 510. And then the touchdowns, Cam Ward had 8 touchdowns this past year rushing, and then KJ Jefferson had 2. The year before that, he had 7. And then fumbles, Cam Ward had quite a few, 12, and then KJ Jefferson had quite a few. He had 12. And then the year before that, KJ Jefferson had 5. So if you look at the year prior, KJ Jefferson's rushing numbers looked much better compared to this past year, 2023. So those are some quick numbers that I want to throw at you all just to show you the difference between Cam Ward and KJ Jefferson. I think that a lot of people assume that Cam Ward would be a huge bump compared to Tyler Van Dyke, which I also believe. But just watching KJ Jefferson's highlight tape, watching a whole lot of his lowlights as well. I went back and watched them play against Alabama. I just wanted to see how he reacted to an Alabama defense. I watched that whole game. I don't think there's a whole lot of drop off from KJ to. I don't think there's a lot of drop off from Cam Ward to KJ. I think they're a lot closer than a lot of people would actually believe, especially if you consider the fact that he played so much well the year before, then he had a down season this year. I'm thinking if he had a better offensive line like we have in Miami, I think if he had better weapons like we have in Miami, I think if he had a better running game, which they actually have a pretty good running game at Arkansas, but if they had a better running game, if they had more complementary pieces, if they had a better defense, I think KJ could actually come to Miami and show out. I really believe that. So I'm super curious to know what you all think about this whole KJ situation because he jumped into the portal pretty late, and I don't know how many different. I haven't heard a lot of buzz around his name as far as who's interested in picking him up. So really interested to know what y'all think. Do you think that he would be a really good get for the Hurricanes, or do you think that it's something that we should just be done with? Also, really curious to know what is your panic meter? Like, what is it set at right now as far as our quarterback search goes? We had all these options that we had in this big pile of transfer portal quarterbacks, and slowly but surely, those quarterback options have dwindled all the way down. And it's like right now we're almost stuck with the option of Cam Ward, and if he decides to go to Florida State, or if he is not bluffing and he actually does go to the NFL, which I do think he's bluffing. But if he's not bluffing and he actually does go to the NFL, we're going to either be stuck with hoping Emory Williams recovers quick enough, Jacurri Brown sticks around, or we get something to fall in our lap like the guy from Toledo or this guy from Arkansas. You know what I'm saying? So curious to know what y'all's panic meter is right now. Is it as a 0 where you're feeling just fine with the shades on, chilling? Or are you super nervous, almost to the level I'm at? I think my panic meter is probably at like a 7 or so. I think I'm all right. I'm not at a 0 where I'm chilling with the shades, but I'm not at jump off the bridge 10 either with the quarterback situation. Somewhere like 6 or 7. So curious to know where y'all on that. All right, that's all I got for you today. I appreciate you watching. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. God bless. Take care. Peace.